eve of the start of week 1. All these people are talking. Look at everybody. You see Jordan Love down there, Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Caleb Williams. I had to say them all because once I said one, I was stuck. You're going to hear from all of them. That's coming your way during our show as we welcome you into NFL Live. So glad that you're with us. Dan Orlovsky's here. Field Yates is here. Marcus Spears, Adam Schefter. Let's roll, boys. Adam, are you ready to go? Oh, there's the wave because we needed the wave so it could officially start. And now let's get to the news, okay? Adam Schefter joining us with his top stories. Let's start with some bad news for the Jets. What's going on there, Adam?
All right, Laura, at Tuesday's practice, the Jets starting guard Elijah Vera Tucker hurt his triceps. He's undergoing tests, but the team fears it's a torn triceps injury that could require surgery and would end his season. He suffered a triceps injury in 2022. It was the opposite arm. This is a different arm, but it could be the same result. His season could very well be over. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers wait to see whether or not they'll have Micah Parsons on Sunday against the Lions. He's preparing to play. He's trying to play. He's prepared to take a pain-killing injection if it means that he has to do that to play. But I don't think anybody thinks Micah Parsons is going to sign a $188 million deal. Green Bay is going to give up what it did, and he's not going to play against the Lions. So look for Parsons to be out there Sunday. And meanwhile, we have our first injury report of the season with lots of little informational nuggets on there. Trayvon Diggs, good to go tomorrow night. Tyler Guyton, good to go tomorrow night. Jalen Carter, good to go. Landon Dickerson, who had knee surgery last month, is going to make it back. He is not even listed on the injury report for Thursday night's opener, so the Eagles will have their ultra-tough, ultra-talented Pro Bowl guard Landon Dickerson trying to open holes for Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley.
That Landon Dickerson news was huge. When we heard that happen a little while ago, we were worried he wouldn't be ready for the opener. As Adam's telling you, he is. So how about this? Just over 24 hours until the Cowboys-Eagles game kicks off. It's almost here, people. The Cowboys only have 4 active wide receivers, but they each bring something different. CeeDee Lamb coming off another 100-catch season. The trade for George Pickens adds a magnet for those tight window throws. Kevontae Turpin, the best return man in the NFL last season, and Jalen Tolbert led the Cowboys in touchdown catches a year ago. Brian Schottenheimer was asked about Pickens and CeeDee playing together yesterday.
I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to watch those guys every day in practice. You know, it's fun to watch those guys. But what I love, Todd, is I love the way they feed off one another and they celebrate one another. You know, as we all know, there's one ball. You know, and the ball can't go to multiple spots on the play, and we've got a lot of really good weapons. You know, Terp's having a great, lead up to the season. We're going to run the football. We know that, and so I'm just excited for how much fun those guys have playing the game as Cowboys.
Golly, it certainly looks good, even on the practice field. Dan, what can this Cowboys offense take advantage of against the Eagles tomorrow?
One, take advantage of the unknown. Ryan Schottenheimer hasn't been the play caller in the NFL for 5 years. And Vic Fangio, who's the defense coordinator for Philly, has been around the NFL forever, but there's not really a known of who they're going to be on offense. We've heard all offseason that they wanted to get into more formations and more shifts and more motions and different actions and play actions. The Eagles are guessing a little bit on who you are schematically. So in the game early on, see if you can get into that stuff and use tempo doing it. Use no huddle to do it, to force communication from Philly at home, and maybe that helps you offensively. And the second thing is I would throw 80% of my passes opposite Quinyon Mitchell. The corner 2 spot, whoever's stepping in for Darius Slay, it should be Adoree Jackson. Now, Adoree Jackson's played a lot of time, a lot of games in the NFL. Certainly not in Philly. There's really only 3 proven guys in that secondary that have played a lot for Philadelphia. I would make sure that I'm taking plenty of shots opposite Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best wide receiver duos that Philadelphia will see all season. It's one of the best, probably in the entire NFL right now with the addition of George Pickens. But it's an inexperienced group collectively in Philadelphia, not in terms of like actual time played in the NFL. But to your point, Dano, like this is some new faces that are going to have to communicate at a high level, which say what you want about Philadelphia's roster. Listen, there are no major roster holes for Philadelphia, but there are a couple of guys who are going to have to earn their stripes. There is no longer a C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a Darius Slay, guys who have been there, seen a lot of skins on the wall in Philadelphia. So it's a big test coming out of the gates here for that Eagles secondary. And this Cowboys offense, I know Shotty keeps talking about wanting to run the football, but I'm sitting there thinking to myself, when you got those 2 guys, like,
I would take shots early.
Make them earn it in the secondary.
I love what both of y'all are saying about pushing the ball downfield. Your 2 best offensive weapons are your wide receivers. So it makes a ton of sense. Don't forget about Jake Ferguson either at the tight end spot, trying to exploit some things throughout the middle of the field. But this has to be a play-action balance type of situation for Dak Prescott. You lean heavily more towards the pass. That's why I'm in agreement with you all. But y'all go back and harken back to those conversations we had last year with the Dallas Cowboys. They could not find a run game at all. There needs to be some semblance of being able to do that, especially with an offensive line now that has to be a physical offensive line, and running the football is always easier for these guys. I'm not sure how many times you want to just drop straight back against Philly, especially with Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith being up there on that defensive line for them, and Jordan Davis being able to push the pocket as well. So Smith, and you look at all of these guys that they brought in at the running back position, but more important, Miles Sanders returning back to Philly after his Super Bowl year and run that he had with them. I'm looking forward to seeing them have balance for Dak in order not only to protect him, but also open up some of those downfield shots that y'all talk about with CD and George Pickens. And we know what they want to do with George Pickens. Get him one-on-one on the outside and let him big boy a defensive back down the field.
That's what they call it, big boy in the DB.
Big boy.
By the way, you mentioned play action. Dak has the 5th best touchdown interception ratio on play action throws since 2020, so favors him as well. New on NFL Live, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are preparing for their primetime showdown. They both spoke less than an hour ago on the matchup. We're bringing it to you now.
Don't turn the ball over, finish drives, put our team in a great position to win. That's all.
Lamar, how many times have you gone back and watched the Buffalo game at all?
I can't count. Just watching film a lot, but just me going back to see like a loss, I don't know.
When you look at the film, what do you see?
I see we could have did better. That's it.
They're good. They're really good. They have a really good front, best run-stopping front in the league. On the back end, they've invested a lot of first-round picks, on their DBs and safeties. I think everybody in their back end's a first-round pick. So they've got some absolute studs over there. Their third down package is really hard to stop. It's hard to see. Luckily we'll be at home and be able to communicate a little bit better than we were early on in the season last year. And obviously we played them in the playoffs, and we understand there's going to be a lot of heightened emotions on both sides.
Yeah, just in case you needed something to get you excited about today.
Every person in the secondary is a first rounder.
Crazy.
Wow.
Also, a couple MVPs ready to go at it again. Allen holds the slight edge with 3 wins, including both playoff games. Jackson's numbers are slightly better, except those turnovers, as you see there. Only one quarterback has beaten Lamar Jackson more than Josh Allen, and it's Patrick Mahomes with 5. Those 3. All right, Field. When you look at this Buffalo offense, what do you expect out of the receiver group? Because that's a question mark we've had all offseason.
Yeah, Josh Allen proved last year he doesn't need a game-changing wide receiver to win the NFL MVP. He literally did that last year. But I am curious if there is a developmental arc for Keon Coleman that maybe puts him in play to become a guy that on third and gotta have it, red zone, short yardage, whatever it is, late in a playoff game, Josh Allen says, I'm just going to throw the ball to number 0 because he is better than the opposing team's corner who has him on that specific play. Now, Coleman, by the way, is dealing with a groin injury that he was limited in practice today as a result of. We know what Khalil Shakir is. He's Mr. Steady Eddie. He's a guy that Josh is always going to find in a pinch. Is there a guy that when you're just down and you need it and you just need your best to be better than their best, is there somebody in that group?
What I think is a big deal with Keon and Josh Palmer, who they signed from LA in free agency, is are they willing to?
It's swag. He says yes. It's like, let's go.
If your team's soft, as you put it, that's on you.
Appreciate y'all. They are my favorite 3 words in the English language.
You got more.
That is the picture right there of what it feels like to defend Josh Allen. Oh, Teddy's coming. Hey, read him. Okay, now I feel like I'm part of the show. Here we go.
Catch the Countdown Crew, 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN and the all-new ESPN app. Everything you need to know right up to kickoff to get you ready for everything. And Randy Moss is back, too. Cannot wait for that.
Yeah.
Next up, Jaden Daniels with his own tough test against the Giants' defense. He spoke about his hopes for Week 1 today.
I just hope not hope, but go out there and execute at a high standard. That's the standard that we keep, and that's the standard we uphold each and every day, especially another year in the system. We know it. We're allowed to go out there and play fast and free.
Dan, how can this this Commanders offense slow down the Giants' rush?
Yeah, so one of the things that they do great is their no huddle. And so I think if you're the Commanders, you're trying to see if those three defensive stars, Burns, Lawrence, and Abdul Carter, are on the field at the same time. You're thinking quick game, you're thinking running the football, you're thinking max protection, perimeter screens, just to make sure that that defensive line doesn't hunt. And then if two of those guys in the middle of that no-huddle drive comes off the field because they're tired, then I think you get into a little bit more of your traditional pass game. You're trying to create some of the chunks or some of the Jaden Daniels move stuff. You have to be very strategic. If those three pass rushers are on the field, you don't want to make it obvious that you're throwing the football and holding it. It's get the ball quick when they're on there, and then when they're not, then it's the opportunity to create some big passes or plays in your pass game.
New on NFL Live, Joe Burrow preparing for Myles Garrett and the Browns defense. Here he is from a moment ago.
What they're very good at is making everything that they do look like every other thing that they do. Yeah, you have to get the ball out quick, try to get it out as fast as you can, because those guys up front are coming, and their coach does a good job of sending a pressure here and there that you're not necessarily ready for. They don't pressure us a ton, but when they do, it's usually effective. And I think we're in a good spot of game plan wise of figuring out when and where those are coming from.
Phil, Burrow and the Bengals lost to the Browns Week 1, 2023. How do they avoid that this time?
Yeah, I do think it's block number 95. I'll get back to that in just a minute here, Laura. But Joe is right. Jim Schwartz, the defensive coordinator for the Browns, has some of the most exotic pressures you'll see in the entire NFL. I'm less concerned about those against Cincinnati because I think Joe is in the conversation, if not the best pre-snap processor of any quarterback in the league. But you better have a plan for Myles Garrett because he himself can be a play-wrecking defender. We have seen that time and again. And Cincinnati's slow starts cannot persist if this team wants to be a serious factor in the AFC this year.
We're hearing from quarterbacks all over the league today in anticipation of Week 1 start. Let's get to some more. New on NFL Live. Here's CJ Stroud.
It's every first game of every year. You're excited to show your talent and the new guys and the new stuff you learn, the new schemes. It's a bunch of different feelings, but yeah, I'm really just excited to play again. I'm tired of watching, so. Yeah, I'm just excited to play. I don't really feel a huge difference, but yeah, just natural jitters and nervousness from just a new season. So.
Stroud preparing for that Rams defense. Marcus, what do you be watching for from the Texans offense?
Well, we know what the critical point is for the Houston Texans, and that's protection. They tried to get this offensive line and re-solidify a little bit. Also got to use Nick Chubb in this run game as well. Joe Mixon was a big part of what they did last year. I don't think you can get away from that. But this team needs to play with leads because they can be dominant defensively if they can get up on opponents early. C.J. Stroud, I think you'll see remnants of that rookie year that we saw as long as he has time to push the ball down the field, especially with his new weapon, Christian Kirk, and Nico Collins obviously returning as his number one guy. I'm interested to see, though, how that protection, especially in the heart of that offense, if it was a vast improvement for last year, because he was absolutely mauled by interior pressure all season long.
And also speaking this afternoon, Aaron Rodgers, who was asked if there's a little extra motivation playing against his former team. Here's what he said.
Yeah, it's week 1. Well, this is the second new, so it's the new. I'm loving being here. The way that I've been welcomed has been really, really special, from top down to the fans to guys in the locker room and support staff, the men and women that work for this organization. It's been really, really special.
All right, so for more on this, we welcome in our Steelers reporter, Brooke Pryor. Brooke, Rodgers isn't saying much about returning to MetLife, but what are his teammates telling you about the significance of this game?
Well, Laura, I guess I should have anticipated that Rodgers wasn't going to say much about going back to MetLife, because I asked Mike Tomlin yesterday if he could sense that this game meant more to Rodgers, and he said, well, if it does mean anything more than just a normal game, he's probably not going to tell you. So I put on my reporter hat and I asked his teammates if they had a sense that this game means anything more, and Pat Freiermuth told me that it really doesn't seem that way. He said that Rodgers is handling this like a normal game, but he said this whole locker room, they do want to win it for him, but he appreciates, and the locker room appreciates, that he's not adding any pressure, making this game more than what it is, which is a season opener for an offense that didn't take any snaps together in the preseason in game action. Wide receiver DK Metcalf largely echoed what Pat Freiermuth said when I asked him about it. And I said, look, DK, can you tell that this is something different for Aaron Rodgers? And he said, no. I mean, he wants to get out there. The last couple teams left a bad taste in his mouth, but it's because he likes being a quarterback. He likes playing the game, and he wants to win as many games as he can. I said, are you concerned about getting off to a slow start because you haven't had all the game reps together? And he said, no, not me. That's what everybody else is worried about.
Oh, I love it. No worries there. Maybe some fantasy owners paying attention to that as well. Thanks so much to Brooke. We've already heard from all these quarterbacks.
Ridiculous. First up, if I said Cam Ward, week 1, #1 overall pick, is going to light up a very good Denver defense. Lewis, is that ridiculous?
As much as I love Cam Ward, yeah, that's a little ridiculous. Look, Vance Joseph has got the Denver Broncos defense humming right now. They can rush the passer. They got the best cover corner in the NFL. Cam is going to have a great season. He just is. Just let him have his growing pains. Let him crawl before he walks. Let him walk before he runs. But once he gets running, he will light some people up. It's just not this week.
All right, so we start with a younger quarterback. Let's go to an older one. If I said Matthew Stafford is going to throw 3 touchdown passes in the opener against Houston, is that ridiculous?
Yeah, that's a little ridiculous. Look, the Houston Texans can rush the passer as well as anyone. They've got a bunch of dogs on that defense. We've been worrying about Matthew Stafford all preseason long as far as the status of his back. Has not played. Look, I think he's another guy. You're going to have to let him ease himself into it. He's right away stepping right into the fire going against the Houston Texans. 3 touchdowns, that's a little much. Yeah, I'll say that's ridiculous.
Okay, fair enough. And then last one, Sunday night, Ravens and Bills. If I said this is a preview of the AFC Championship game, would that be ridiculous?
No, that's not ridiculous at all. I could totally see that being the case here. Look, the AFC is loaded. We all know that. We know that it's nothing but heavyweight after heavyweight, and they're just going to absolutely bloody each other's nose all season long, and they're going to do it again in the playoffs. This is, though, I think one of these games where I think this will be a little bit of a precursor to how we think the season is going to go, and I think for Baltimore, and we'll get into this later on, this is huge as opening games go.
Don't do it later on.
Yeah, let's do it now. I forgot it was on the rundown right now, so let's just do it right now then. Yeah. Absolutely.
Why is this game so important to the Ravens?
I think from a mental standpoint, this team was devastated the way they lost to Buffalo last year. Devastated. I mean, from Mark Andrews to Lamar Jackson himself.
In the Vikings defense.
They blitz more than any other team on any down. They load up the box. They typically want, many rushers, rushing the QB, as many one-on-ones at the least that they can have.
It's hard to have any breather plays this week. It's just the nature of how Flo calls it. And, we got to be locked in if we want to have success against this defense.
It's interesting. Our Bears reporter, Courtney Cronin, joining us now. Courtney, what are you hearing about the Bears' approach to this matchup specifically?
Yeah, Laura, like all of us, Ben Johnson acknowledged that he has a level of curiosity for how Caleb Williams is going to look against the Minnesota Vikings. He called it the giant unknown, and there are some things that lead the Bears to think the amount they can put on Caleb Williams' plate will be greater than maybe the last time he would have faced Minnesota. So much of that deals with the fact that this is a defense that has pressured teams at a higher rate than anybody else in the NFL over the last 2 seasons. But how they're able to get there with Caleb Williams depends on what he's able to do in practice this week, because the Bears are at a point where they're paring down the playbook. So that should alleviate some of the pre-snap issues that they've shown throughout the preseason. And it's also going to determine how Ben Johnson calls this game and what he said, how much he's able to put on Caleb Williams' shoulders to be able to carry this team. Now, one area Williams addressed today that he feels more comfortable with, something he wants to use as a weapon against the Vikings, is his cadence. Tight end Cole Kmet told me that he felt in Kansas City during the preseason game, he had his best game of the preseason getting off the ball. And that was a credit to Williams, how he used the cadence there, and something that they feel could be to their advantage on Monday night at Soldier Field.
Ooh, that's really interesting. We'll be there to keep an eye out for that for sure, and maybe you'll see it in game. Thanks so much to Courtney. Dan, Ben Johnson, very familiar with Brian Flores in this Vikings defense. What will you be watching for specifically as he faces it with a completely different team and different personnel?
Yeah, second down. Now, Ben Ben Johnson's had Brian Flores' number. You know, when he was the coordinator for 3 years in Detroit, the Lions averaged 31 points a game versus the Vikings defense. No one else did that. And the reason why is because he would often take second down and treat it like third down, anticipating a lot of pressures. This is the Lions last year. Has he taught Caleb Williams to anticipate that pressure? Is that safety going to blitz, or is he going to drop back? And what are the answers on those second downs where when you think that linebacker is going to trigger and that safety's playing with depth, are they going to turn around and hand it off to DeAndre Swift? No, they're going to kick this ball to the perimeter to a player like a DJ Moore and try to make sure that they're just staying ahead of those third and obvious passing situations. The way that they handle some of those blitz protections or getting the ball out on the perimeter to some of their backs. This time they motion. It's 2nd and 6. We're not trying to get the 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4. They're trying to outflank the defense, try to beat the defense with speed to the sidelines. And a player, again, like last year, it's Gibbs. This year, it could be DeAndre Swift out on the perimeter. And then when you get into those second longs and you're anticipating some of those all-out potential looks, Ben Johnson got creative with how they wanted to block it. When do they take their shots against it? When do you call the play? And do they have the people to handle some of those protections to take advantage of a safety getting out of the incorrect position and some of their perimeter players down the field? Now, Jared Goff had run that for years. He could run it asleep. Is Caleb there yet? And I think the reality for Ben with Flo is it's not the play, it's when he calls it, you know, and I think that will be the most fascinating part when it comes to that part of the game is when does Ben call the plays and how does Caleb understand why he's calling it?
And it's almost like the pre-snap operation is maybe just as important as the post-snap operation this week against Brian Flores, who, of course, Caleb Williams is going to see twice a season going forward for as long as Flores is with the Vikings at that defensive coordinator capacity. But it's going to be a lot of stuff that Dan just showed you, and then a lot of stuff that Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, and maybe even guys on the Vikings defense have never seen before, right? This is the ultimate wrinkle thrower is Brian Flores on the defensive side of the ball. When the Bears have looked effective so far, when they did look effective in preseason, it felt like Caleb Williams understood pre-snap what was coming. It's a whole different level. Right? That was as vanilla could be. But if they're going to succeed in a big-time way this upcoming year and going forward, it's going to be because Caleb Williams becomes as comfortable in Chicago as Jared Goff had become in Detroit, in which yes, the execution was high and the talent was great, but they were just outsmarting you before the ball was even snapped as well.
Yeah, Courtney's reported all summer long, it seems like, just about how complicated this offense is. And they're loading him up, but maybe there's a little bit of time for that adjustment to happen. Marcus, on the other side of the ball in this one is J.J. McCarthy. His very first NFL start. What do you want to see from him?
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating how Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears, deploys this defense as well. Do you want to test the first-time starter and try to speed him up as well? Obviously, with having those weapons outside, especially Justin Jefferson, you don't want him to wreck the game, so you cut the head off the snake. I'm interested to see, because this is also, there's a narrative that's going to be derived from this game. One, it being a divisional opponent, but ultimately, we saw Sam Darnold have a tremendous amount of success, and we've given Kevin O'Connell a tremendous amount of credit for what he's been able to do with the quarterbacks in this offense in Minnesota. So if it doesn't look well, we're going to squarely place the blame on a young quarterback, unfairly. We will talk about J.J. McCarthy and if the development is going to have to take place during the season, and are you going to have to sacrifice wins and potential success of what we've grown accustomed to in order to develop a kid that you drafted late that's getting his first reps in a divisional game? I'm super interested in the plan for J.J. McCarthy and also Dennis Allen plan defensively and how he tries to heat this young quarterback up, who I could still consider a rookie.
Yeah, it's funny because as much as it's maybe a positive when you look at the game from a Vikings standpoint that Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold had Pro Bowl seasons in their first year under Kevin O'Connell, if that doesn't happen for J.J. McCarthy, everyone's going to be like, well, it's not Kevin O'Connell's fault.
It's fair to have big expectations for McCarthy. It's fair.
Yeah, I like it. All right, time for some more top stories. Adam Schefter back with us. Adam, what is the latest on Juwan Jennings?
Well, how about this, Laura? Big story out of the Bay Area. Kyle Shanahan said moments ago that Juwan Jennings, despite being limited today in practice due to his calf injury, is expected to play Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, you remember during the summer, Jennings has not practiced a whole lot, part hold in, part calf injury, but he is expected to be in uniform for Sunday's opener. That's a boost for the 49ers offense. Meanwhile, we're still waiting to see if there's any sort of resolution to the Cam Hayward situation. Now, Mike Tomlin said yesterday that he expects Hayward to play on Sunday. My understanding is this situation still isn't resolved, still isn't over, and we'll see how that unfolds as the Steelers get ready to open their season on Sunday against the Jets, and Hayward wanting adjustments in his contract. Meanwhile, in that same game, the Jets will be without their starting guard, Elijah Vera Tucker. They fear that he suffered a torn triceps. It would be the second time that he suffered this injury. The first came in 2022 when he tore his triceps, ended his season. This is the opposite arm. They're getting a second opinion to see if he does need surgery, as they believe he does. And if he does, he would be out for the year. One other injury note to point out. Moments ago, the Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh said Najee Harris is expected to play Friday night. He's been limited this past week, obviously due to the fact that he sustained an eye injury in a fireworks accident on July 4th, missed a good portion of camp, but Harris is expected to be out there for the Chargers' regular season opener Friday night in Brazil against the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's great news for the Chargers, but also just for Najee Harris. We got a lot more coming your way. Week 1 is here. The rookies are ready to take center stage. Who will shine? Who might stumble? Field is going to tell us who he thinks could make or break their team's seasons. Don't miss this. Rookie Watch is next.